I'm Bridgit Danner with Hormone Detox Shop. I happen to be on vacation in Hawaii right now, and I really, decided to keep doing this webinar because I think the topic today is such a good one, and I really want to get it in front of people. So before we start, maybe I can give you my view. This is on the Big Island of Hawaii. It's my first time on the Big Island, and we were in an Airbnb earlier, but now we're in this Marriott, and there's these beautiful condos that are like plantation style across the way. It's really nice. Lots of lava on this island. It's still an active volcano. It's a pretty cool place. So I prepared some things to share with you on my screen today. And again, we'll be talking about a couple of different private services that we offer that I just don't feel people are very aware of. And they're super valuable and they're super affordable. And usually if we highlight something, we also do a sale on it. So it's also they're both 25% off right now. So it's a great opportunity. So, for the sake of this little bit longer webinar, I'm going to do some case studies for you that were actual clients that I had, just to give you an idea of how I work and what comes up and what we can work with. And if people have specific questions, I can take those as well. I'm almost there. If you haven't read the blog yet, I linked to it, and it's really helpful as well. So, one thing I find is people maybe have had some experiences where they're like, oh, I already spent so much money and it didn't work, and I don't want to spend more money. And I kind of talk through like what that experience sort of means and how I view working with perhaps multiple practitioners. I mean, certainly over the course of your lifetime, you should be working with multiple practitioners. And even in the course of a year, I think you should be working with probably a few different practitioners. I work with a lot of different practitioners myself, depending on the season of my life and what I'm needing at the time. So I think if you feel, an affinity to a practitioner, or you just get a good recommendation, sometimes I don't know a lot about someone before I try them, but I've gotten a good recommendation, or, there's just something really aligning. And then everybody's always adding something to your case, even if it wasn't quite what you expected or whatever. No one practitioner is going to be your savior. You're in charge of your own health, and everyone is just there to help you along your path. So, it's like a board game, and there's like different stops you make along the way, different things you learn along the way. And that's kind of what I think more of the practitioner relationship than that one practitioner is supposed to take you the whole path. Everyone is limited in their knowledge. And if you have a complex health history, you're probably going to need more than one person to learn from and grow with. So here's a little document I made. If you go to our site later, these are what these two sale items look like, and they're on our private coaching page. You can see that it's really an amazing price for a private time with functional health coach. All the sessions are with our coach, Mickey Contini, unless you also purchase, where's my picture? This one. If you purchase this like other thing to work with me, and then there's a little added fee, but then you get to work with me. Since I'm going to be writing a book, I need to limit how many people I see, so we're adding a little extra fee to work with me right now. But Mickey is also amazing, so if you don't want to spend the extra money, it's definitely no different. We just wanted to give that option. So again, here's our link to private coaching at Hormone Detox Shop. This is the blog. It's easy as just to go to bridgitdanner.com, and every new blog was right there on the home page. This is the new blog, kind of what it looks like. And I just put here briefly what it entails. So both of the sessions are pretty similar. You send us your little health history, what you've tried so far, what you're eating, what you're taking for supplements, except the added thing with the past lab reviews, you'll also send us some old labs. Not too old, preferably in the last year, but if it could be okay to send something that's older than a year if it's significant for the conversation, but of course, like more recent makes more sense. And then we have our call together, and then we will send you pretty detailed instructions by email, which I don't always see. I used to see a naturopath in Arizona where I live, and he wouldn't give me any notes. He just, if he had something important to say, he's like, "Do you have a pen?" Like, what am I paying you for? Yeah, I guess everyone has their own style, but really, I think it's a little irresponsible to not give your client notes, so they can take action. So we're really great about that. And since we're an online business, A, we can see you anywhere, and B, like it's just clickable. It's really easy to follow through when you work with us. So again, here's a little extra button if you want to work with me in particular. There's also an extra fee if you want to have us review like many labs. So some people have a very complex case and they want us to review 5 or 6 labs. That obviously takes us longer to prepare for the session. So that costs a little more, but that's also on sale. So it's a great deal right now. Okay, so mostly I wanted to share with you, I think I have 3 or 4 examples. The first example, I had some of this in the blog if you saw it. It's about a young woman, a girl, still a girl, who lives in the Middle East, and the mother hired me to do a past lab review. So it's always a little harder with children because their ability to explain things is more limited. And certainly in this case, there was a language barrier. So it was helpful that I had these labs in this case. And if we didn't have any, if we had just done a case review, I probably would have asked her to do some. But it made my life easier because from the Middle East, that's a pretty tough place it takes us a lot of extra work to try to arrange labs from there. So I was happy that she had already gotten some labs run prior to this. So if you've taken the time to come on live or watch this video, I gave a little more info than in the blog. So the 2 test results that were presented to me were a GI map test, which is what we run, so that was fantastic. And then there was another test they called IPA analysis, which was sort of a leaky gut test. So the client, who's kind of her mother, had these labs run and gotten some advice, but she felt like she didn't understand the results as well as she wanted to, and she wasn't feeling totally confident about the recommendations. The recommendations she got were to use pharmaceuticals and to do like a certain restricted diet. I can't remember what they recommended to her. I don't like to restrict the diet unless it's really necessary. So a super restricted diet, nobody wants to stay on that forever. And then you can become even more limited in what foods you're able to have, because now you have less diverse foods. Now you have less diverse bacteria in your gut. And now you can't you introduce more foods and you feel bloated and you can't handle them. So I don't like to use dietary restriction as a fix, because usually you also need some herbal protocol or something to address whatever pathogen is going on. Sometimes you need a temporary restricted diet, and there's certain foods that are never good for any of us, like I think dairy and wheat and alcohol and caffeine and sugar. Like, we don't need those things. They don't really benefit us. Do we eat them sometimes? Yeah, we do, but we don't really need them. So I was glad she scheduled with me. I was glad she had some things that she had secured on her own. I don't have the result here in front of me, but this is what I give as far as, every time I see a test, I send back an explanation of the test and what was significant. And actually, I find that a lot of practitioners do not do that either. So this girl had E. coli elevated on the first page of her GI map, which is a little unusual, and it just kind of shows me there's overall like dysbiosis. Page 2, some of these are friendly bacteria, but if they're high or low, that can indicate indigestion, sometimes metabolic dysfunction, sometimes autoimmunity. So it's not like a diagnosis, but it can be a little suggestive. And sometimes we do see these things correlating. Here you can see here in the middle that her Bacteroides population was low. So that's overall like big species of bacteria, and it was low. And then on the next page, she had some opportunistic or unfriendly bacteria that were elevated. And we can kind of see themes. Why do these get elevated? Why does the body allow for these pathogenic bacteria to grow? Sometimes it's just not enough stomach acid production, not enough enzyme production. It's stress. In the case of this girl, it was all of those things. She really responds well to hydrochloric acid supplementation, enzyme supplementation, and she was having stress from her school life. So, I really always encourage, don't just look at the microbiome, look at like, how are you swallowing? How are you chewing? How are things happening in the top of your digestion? Because a lot of that determines what happens in the bottom half of the digestion. Is the brain signaling? Is the thyroid working? These are important factors. You see, there was a question I'll answer in just a minute here. So she had some overgrown, unfriendly bacteria, and some of these suggested the digestion might have been a little weak. We kind of just look for themes. That's a nice thing about working with a practitioner, is you can kind of see themes. And when the mom told me, oh, she does so much better with, when she does take hydrochloric acid or she does take enzymes, I'm like, okay, we'll keep taking those and let's keep working on the stress and let her body work to make those things herself. This little girl also had a parasite, and this is another area where it's good to have a practitioner, because the GI map will show you if you have a parasite, but sometimes it will be like in range. So to me, any detection of a parasite is a problem. I don't know why GI map kind of like shares it like that, but I treat any detected parasite. So the other practitioner had not addressed this. The mom was sort of like confused about this, and I was like, we see a parasite with little girls, not eating, she's not gaining weight. This is like a problem, so we do need to address it. So we'll see that in her protocol later. She also had an enzyme elevated that becomes elevated from leaky gut and from infection. So you may have heard of it. It's called this beta glucuronidase enzyme. You may have heard of it because it allows estrogen to recirculate. Now, she's prepubescent, so that particular thing wasn't an issue, but it could become an issue. But it's re-releasing any toxins back to the body when this enzyme is elevated. So this enzyme will break apart the bonds of waste products that are meant to be exiting the body. So then the waste products, whether it's like infection or used hormone or whatever, can get back into circulation. So mostly I don't treat this directly. I just treat all the infections in the whole gut so that this number can come down. So I made some notes here for her mom about all this. She also had low SIGA, secretory IgA, which is in a mucus layer of immunoglobulins and immune cells that protect us from infections and create a barrier between us and the food and everything coming through. It's pretty commonly low in our clients due to stress and long-term infection. So that's something we'll work on with her. This little girl is also sensitive to wheat. In this particular test, there's lots of ways to test for wheat sensitivity, but she was sensitive. So she had already been avoiding wheat, and she does much better with that. I'll just show you her second test, and then we'll take questions. This was a test I don't usually run. It was like basically like a leaky gut test, and then it said it could be like stomach leaky gut, kind of, which I hadn't really seen, but I looked it up a little bit for the mom. So, if it's a test I'm not familiar with, I will do a little extra work to, see if there's something um, significant for us to worry about, but I didn't really see that this stomach permeability was a big issue for her. Okay, Debbie is saying she's had many tests, including the GI map, did not find parasites. Oh no. Had blood work was normal, had an appendectomy, pain in the rib. She had a blocked liver bile duct. She had hundreds of parasites come out of several months. Yeah. So this is a great point. We don't have a GI map in front of us, but the GI map only tests for like 5 parasites and 5 worms. So I don't know which type you had, Debbie, but yeah, I generally tell people that when we see the GI map. I'm like, you can see right here, this isn't very many. There are many more than are listed here. So you can have a false negative on parasites because this is limited. Yeah, parasites do not necessarily show up on tests. So yeah, this is why it's also good to see a practitioner and maybe see more than one practitioner. And I usually mention, my parasite friends, parasite expert friends, just say to do a parasite cleanse twice a year because there's so many and we all have them. So yeah, that's a great example. Sometimes people don't have parasites, but they've been wanting to test or wanting to do a cleanse, and I just help direct them on that. Okay, we have a couple other questions here I'll try to answer. Can we be covered by insurance? Really only if you have a health savings account card. We do not deal with billing insurance directly. I'm no longer on any insurance networks, but if you have a health savings account card, you can usually run it through our website to buy a test or buy coaching if that's included in your health savings account. If your card gets somehow snagged, we can also do it through PayPal if it's not working correctly. But usually it works, and that's the best way. Jen also asked, her son is 12, craves flour and sugar, and then he gets acid reflux and refuses to eat healthy. Yeah, I mean, some of it we can work with, some, we can't. Like, part of, we won't be the ones there feeding him. So part of that has to be, a family decision to all eat better. For one example, our local nutritionist or counselor to work with him. How we would help, we can certainly help with supplements for reflux, some supplements for cravings. As you'll see in a minute, I can help with, giving children supplements so things aren't pills sometimes. But like I said earlier, sometimes it takes a lot of approaches. Like me just saying stuff won't make your son eat right. One thing I do is get that stuff out of the house. If it's not there, he can't eat it. So, you and his father or whoever's there are buying the food. You can say, oh, he won't eat anything else. Well, it's just like when we fast or when we change our own diets. We all have, like, say we love to have a latte in the morning, but we're trying to give it up. Of course, you're going to crave it. You love it. You're used to it. But if you don't let yourself have it, after a few days of pain, you'll kind of like get used to it. Will you never crave it again? No, you probably will crave it again. But you have to learn a new diet for an adult or a child. If I had an adult patient and they said, well, all I like is butter and noodles, right? That's what a lot of kids eat. I would say that's not okay. You can't just eat butter and noodles and say that's what you crave and like that's the end of the story. You have to diversify your diet, and that you might get some pushback from that kid. You probably will. But if you put the whole family on a cleanse and the whole family's eating differently, and we're not making special food for one person, then you can start to change things. And maybe the child needs some conversation. And this girl in my example did give up gluten completely. She has very little dairy. She wanted to feel better, and I think her mom helped her with, understanding why, and she's doing really good. So it's certainly possible. You just kind of have to like get the right people behind it, have the right attitude. Yeah, he gets it at school. Yeah, I mean, there's only so much he'll get at school if you pack his lunch, right? Yeah, I'm sure it is complicated. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so as you mentioned, it is complicated for him. So, sometimes like with your son, maybe you're thinking more around the emotional work is maybe more important as a starting place in some senses than, working around the trauma may be more important than the actual diet. But I know it's sort of like both, right? Because then the diet makes them act out. So, yeah, especially if they've been like traumatized from a young age, eating poorly from a young age, then it's hard to, how can I say, there's just stuff that's pretty ingrained, but it can absolutely be, worked through with patience. Okay, Karen said she's 55. She's been on hormone replacement pellets. She had Lyme, but no symptoms. She does not want to be on hormone replacement forever. And so you want to work on the Lyme and the hormones, Karen, it sounds like. Karen, if you already have labs, then I would suggest you do a past lab review. If you do not have labs that are, well, you probably do from these hormones and the Lyme. If you have something you think is juicy, you want us to look at it, I would do that session. It's the same cost. If you don't really, or all the labs are old. Karen, you also may want to run a new Dutch test to see where you're at. If you've never had the Dutch test, it's actually going on sale next month. So it'll be $50 off next month. So in some cases, I'm glad you brought this up, Karen. In some cases, you may just want to skip both of these sessions and save your money to do a Dutch test or to do a GI map test. We are not like the biggest Lyme specialists, but we can work with some of the root causes around it. We could work on your gut health. It's probably messed up from Lyme. I'm working on learning more about Lyme. You may want to run a Dutch test, Karen. As far as being on the hormone pellets, yeah, I find that my audience is very resistant to being on hormones. We sell some and no one buys them. I can see what you mean. But I will say with aging and just with stress, like it can be hard to keep hormone levels like really robust. And you do sometimes feel better on higher hormones. We have one formula called Libido Stim F, and it just has like a pretty low dose of DHEA plus some herbs, and that can actually be a nice middle ground. You don't need a prescription. It's going to increase your testosterone and estrogen, probably. It's more upstream, but it's like pretty affordable. It'll put some spring in your step. It'll give you a little muscle mass, but you don't need a prescription. Other than that, I've mentioned a practitioner I work with that she's helped me with my hormones. She's a homeopath, and her name's Marnie Reisner, I think. Reisner. I can't remember how you spell it. Reisner, I think. So I worked with her to kind of subtly work on my hormones and my constitution. We have some kind of hormone supports in the shop, But I generally would recommend a Dutch before you try to get on like a specific hormone protocol. Hope that helps, Karen. Well, okay, Karen, sorry, I didn't see all your. Karen says she has some current labs. No, I respectfully disagree with your doctor. I think blood labs are a gold standard because they've been doing them a long time, but a Dutch is going to give you a lot more like subtlety and a lot more information. So I like the Dutch. You can watch out for that next month, Karen. We have a whole bunch. We have 4 blogs coming out about hormones, and so you're going to have a lot of. We'll talk about menopause, talk about male hormones. So we're going to inundate you with hormone information next month. So that may be a better thing, Karen, or we could just look at what you currently have. Okay, great. All right, let me go back over to this, these notes. So I won't bore you with this too much, but our protocols are pretty detailed, and we have a whole library of handouts. So I asked this mom to read 3 of the handouts. A lot of this is educating ourselves, right? Not just it's a conversation, it's a process, like I said earlier. So we gave her some instructions. I gave her some stuff about stress management. You can see I'm not actually reducing her diet much. I'm actually asking her to expand it little by little. I asked her to eat things that are easy to digest, that have a lot of nutrition, because this girl is getting a little bit, not growing as fast maybe as she should be. I asked her to really continue with the digestive support with like apple cider vinegar, hydrochloric acid. And then we'll get into, her tincture. I got her almost everything to be a powder or a liquid, because I know my kid will not take a pill. So I did a pretty good job. They had to go out of our shop for just a couple things. And then I asked her to get, something on her own, but it wasn't too bad. So yeah, I think it's good. Okay, so next case is also a lab review I did just last week. She is a client with mold, and she's working with a great doctor, Dr. Peter Osborne. You may have heard of he does a lot of work with gluten. She does have celiac, so she chose him. Dr. Osborne was familiar with mold and ran some tests for her on mold. And I think partly why she wanted to talk to me, because she's making the difficult emotional decisions about getting rid of her belongings and stuff, and it's not easy. So I looked at her mycotox test, which is not the one that we run, but it did show high gliotoxin, which I believe is an aspergillus mycotoxin. She had an ERMI dust test of her home. I wasn't super impressed with the test, but it did show like a higher than average amount of mold in her home. She is selling the home, which is great for her. And then she had a really lovely test by SpectraCell, which is a blood lab that I have run more of before for nutrient deficiencies, but this was a pretty big profile. And one of the things that this woman is working on is his weight. She's gaining weight and she can't seem to lose it, even though she does intermittent fasting and she's changed her diet. It could a lot be to do with the mold. She's also genetically, from her ethnicity, she's Hawaiian, that's a culture, like same with Hispanic, that can, just some culture, just our cultural heritage can make, there's higher insulin resistance in some communities. So I think she's dealing with some of that with her genetics, and then also with the mold. So Dr. Osborne had run a nice profile, and a lot of what it showed was her metabolic syndrome. So it was an interesting test. It showed a little bit about her nutrients. Because she's going to move soon, we agreed that she wouldn't work as hard on the protocol quite yet, and just concentrate on selling the house. And when she's in a safer, cleaner space, she can do more. But I gave her a lot of reading material, And she wasn't doing much detox lifestyle stuff, so we talked about that. She wasn't doing binders, so we talked about it, and that's certainly something she could start now. One thing with this woman and another woman you're going to see soon is I'm seeing a lot of blood sugar issues, even when people are trying to eat well, and then they're having stubborn weight. And I think it's really fascinating. It's something I want to dig into more. Is it toxicity? Is it, um, you know, the wrong eating schedule? Like, what's going on here? So for her, we know she has molds, and so we're working on that. But I'm giving her some liver support, some blood sugar support. We have a handout on weight loss. I asked her to read a book that's going to come up later that helps you reset your metabolism. Had her work on some things for like cellular inflammation. The cell wall is where we want the insulin to be able to pass through. So you don't want it to be inflamed. And sometimes doing a short-term cleanse can help reset things. So I think it's something we'll do more of in our community soon. So yeah, a lot of reading material. We have a lot of mold handouts and stuff, so that I gave her, and then she asked her to check in with me in a few months. I also had her do some glutathione and some CoQ10 support for her energy is really low and she's not able to work. So she was really lovely. It was, she really just kind of wanted a second opinion, had been following me a while and knew I had mold myself. So that's a great way to use these sessions. Okay, so last one I have for you is a supplement review. So this person did not have labs, but she had done some labs. So she had kind of mentioned it. So she was working a lot on blood sugar. So she had labs through her normal doctor, but hadn't sent them over. And so mostly she was working on the blood sugar. You can see she had a little swelling too. So this is kind of funny. So her doctor asked her to be on a strict vegetarian diet with grains, and her blood sugar went up. Okay, I don't have anything against the vegetarian diet necessarily, but if you're having a bunch of grains and you're already having a blood sugar issue, obviously it didn't work in her case. But we did find something that worked for her. So she was taking a number of supplements. She had tried a lot of different things herbally for blood sugar already. She had taken sugar out of her diet. She was taking out starchy vegetables. So I try never to give you the same advice you already got. So I asked her, what have you already tried for your blood sugar? And she had tried a lot. You can see here she tried berberine, Gluco Complete, keto, time restricted eating, avoiding grains, going vegetarian, fasting here, but she was doing too much baking. She was baking stuff with coconut flour. That's fine, but it wasn't fine for her because her blood sugar wasn't coming down. So I asked her to give up the baking for a while. She had already tried this diet. She really wasn't drinking. I asked her to take out whey protein because it can be it's inflammatory. Yeah, she was taking a lot of different supplements, but her numbers were not coming down. So I don't think I have it on here, but for her, I actually didn't put her on a bunch of supplements because she had already tried so many. So mostly we focused on diet. And I especially, and some detox, because I think detox is a way to lose weight that people aren't really thinking about. Not just from sweating or whatever, just from like cleaning out these inflammatory compounds that are confusing your system. I think that's the most important part. But I put her on Alan Christensen's metabolic reset diet, more or less. Like I asked her to read his book, and her blood sugar went down like 30 or 40 points in like a few days on his program. So she had already tried a lot, but I was like, well, you haven't tried this, let's try this. And it worked really, really well. I actually haven't talked to her since for a long time. So I don't know, what's happening. But I've been seeing a lot of these ladies lately. We run a thyroid test that has some blood sugar markers. Um, and I actually want to add more, but I see a lot of this with this stubborn blood sugar problem. Even if the daily blood sugar looks okay on the test, the fasting blood sugar, there's still the long-term blood sugar, which is called your hemoglobin A1C, is too high. It's pre-diabetic, and it's causing problems with brain fog and weight and maybe sore joints or whatever. So I've been working on that a lot lately and like looking into it. So, I always will serve whatever is in front of me. And then I get excited when I start to see trends where I'm like, oh, you're not the only one who's stuck on this. You're not the only one who's, trying to eat well and still has high blood sugar. So I think, keep your eyes out. In the next few months, we'll have more support in the shop for blood sugar, and probably do a group cleanse. So these are, it's kind of the fun part of being a practitioner is you can, I don't try to make you fit in my box of what I think people need. I can see what's going on from what you're presenting, and I can go there and work on that. So definitely we're seeing a lot of blood sugar issues, even in our healthy community. So it's been interesting to work with that, and you'll be definitely hearing more about that. So that is all the notes I have for you. Again, you can find these sessions at Hormone Detox Shop on the private coaching page, and they look like this. The discount is already taken, so you don't have to do anything special. And if you want to work with me personally, go look also on that page for a picture that looks like this, and add this to your cart as well. Any other questions or comments? Thank you for the ones we did have. We can attempt to look at Facebook if there's anything going on. Can't even find I love it when I can't find my own video on Facebook. Sorry. It's so hard to find like my own video. Okay, here we go. I don't see any comments on Facebook. Any last ones here on the webinar? No, I don't think liver love and liver tracks are the same. Someone just asked me about that liver love. It's pretty minimal. It's mostly, it seems more for gallbladder. So I've been using this Livatrax lately. I don't have a lot of personal experience with it, but I like it better. I don't think of it. I don't know. Yeah, Anna, I saw liver love and Livatrax being pretty different in ingredients, because I actually had a client say, "Can I just do this liver love?" And I was like, "No, I don't really like it." I love, I love that practitioner. Liver love, I would say, is a little more for gallbladder. So I've been doing Livatrax lately. We don't sell liver love, Anna, so I might have recommended it at some point, but it's a little bit more gallbladder, in my opinion, than Livatrax. We don't sell either one of these right now. Anne Louise Gittelman sells the liver love, I think, and the Livatrax is by Dr. forget his name. somebody, I forget his name. We don't sell either one of these because I'm still kind of looking at what I want to carry in our shop. So that's why you saw the liver one linked. And there's a couple things I'm experimenting with clients right now, but I haven't made a decision on what we have in our own shop. So I'm pretty careful about like what we put in our shop. So still in the research phase. All right. Well, thanks everybody for attending. I appreciate it. Next week, we're switching a bit and we'll have a special webinar link for a webinar on our environmental toxins testing for mold, chemicals, and organic acids. So I'll make a proper thing with slides and the whole 9 yards, and it'll be one day early because I'm traveling next Thursday. So I hope you can make it. Just keep an eye out. And thanks again for being on, everybody. Bye.